Hi, everybody. I'm Ed Randall with Nick Loeb. This is your baby. How did this come to be?
Wow. So, 4 years ago, I just decided to throw a small barbecue party for the Harrison police officers where I live. It was more like a thank you to them. And I just put out some, little slip and slide, some things for their kids and their families. And they had the best time. And I realized these guys are just like us, right? And I thought, the community needs to understand that police officers are no different than you and I. And a lot of the guys are just big kids, right? So it's like boys, like we are. Like we'll never grow up. Like I'm running around doing half the things here. And so I wanted to say, the community needs to do this. And I've been a police officer myself, and there was a struggle in need of education for their children, meaning that they make a good salary, right? So it's very hard for them to qualify for financial aid. But they don't make enough money if they want to send their kids to Syracuse or Harvard private schools, right? Or $60,000, $70,000 a year. They're making $100,000, and a lot of the cops have 2 or 3 children. And who's helping them? Like they're sort of stuck in the middle. So I said, what if in the next year, I invite the cops back, but then I invite the community to not only to get to know them and make relationships with them, but charge at the door, make it a big fun event, and the money can go to scholarships for any of the cops who've got a kid who wants to go to a school that's sort of out of their financial reach. And we started doing that 3 years ago, and we've given away 3 scholarships. We started the first one at $25,000 we gave to one young man from Harrison, and then last year we gave 2 kids each $30,000. One kid from White Plains, who was a son of a White Plains police officer, a daughter of a White Plains police officer, and a boy who was the son of a Harrison police officer. And we have Harrison, White Plains, and Greenwich involved in this event.
What made you, why were you attracted to being a police officer?
So after 9/11, a few of my close friends were in the military and they were serving. And I thought of doing that. But I had a business. I was young, but I had my own business. I didn't want to sort of give that up for 4 years. I also didn't want my friends to outrank me. I mean, that would have been horrible, right? Because I knew if I went to the military, they already give me enough, SHIT that I knew that, they would razz me enough that I knew if I went there, I'd be their subordinate and it would be horrible. And I found a program where you could go to the police academy at nights and weekends in LA for the LA County Sheriff Department, where I was living out in Los Angeles. And then you do this for about a year. You go through 850 hours of training, no different than every other cop. But then afterwards, instead of working full time, you can work part time, and they just don't pay you. But you do go on patrol. You do the same exact things. You're a cop. You just don't get paid. And I did that for several years. I then transferred to Louisiana, where I was a deputy sheriff and worked in plainclothes narcotics out in Louisiana. And now I'm actually now still a constable, really a reserve constable in Louisiana for Jefferson Parish Constable's Office.
So your experience really lends itself to this event because you've lived it.
Yes. I've lived it, and I have friends in it. Going back, friends who in LA, there comes one of my bosses. It actually comes up from Louisiana. It was my partner. I call him my boss. It was my partner, boss. That sort of was a sign that I went out on the road with. He comes up every year, and we've developed close relationships with police officers from in the South and out West. And I've developed now relationships with police officers here in my community, and they're fantastic people. And this whole defund the police movement that happened and now is happening in New York City is scary. And
I was going to ask you what needs to be done to change that perception.
Well, I'm trying to do that. So when I grew up, I spent even a couple years as a kid in New York City. We all knew our local cops. Even in New York City, I knew the guy who did the beat.
You knew the cop on the beat.
Right? We knew the cop on the beat. And we had a personal relationship. And because the world today has become so transient, we don't have those personal relationships anymore. I can tell you, last year, a guy that I knew was pulled over by a police officer here. And they rolled down their window and they immediately recognized each other from my party. They didn't know, but they're like, don't I know it? And that brought down all this tension immediately because they knew each other. And I think me trying to do this community event where I'm trying to get the community to know the cops are going to be out here with their kids. The cops are going to be on the water slide, hanging out like you and me, and getting to build an understanding. They're not these big racist monsters that hate people. And cops, listen, everyone makes mistakes. Things happen. Things are like, we're all human beings, you know? And I got to tell you, in my experience, I haven't met any police officer who goes, I want to kill and hurt black people. I want to kill and hurt like they're horrible people. I haven't heard that from anyone. And so, you know, I think you give them the benefit of the doubt, and I think the community gets to know them. They'll get, next time something happens, they'll have community support. Because they're like, yeah, no, Joe wouldn't do that because I know Joe and I've spent time with Joe. So now I'm coming out as a community member supporting Joe who got into trouble for whatever he did.
In a perfect world, what would you like to see today?
Peace. I mean, you know, I like go back to the old days in terms of where we respect police officers, we obey police officers, you know, I think the disrespect is out of control. I mean, I've seen it myself, even now. And listen, I know we're in this new sort of mentality of a world to sort of all smile and hug, and that's supposed to be what we're supposed to do, but I'm sorry, the police officers are not supposed to be your friends. They're there to protect you. They're not there supposed to be your buddies, right? They're not there to play basketball with you, and they're there to protect you, and you're supposed to have some sort of, you know, like your father, your parents, they're not your friends. They don't have a level of authority of respect. And I wish in a perfect world we could get back to that.
Thanks so much, and congratulations on a wonderful event.
Thank you so much.